I have this Simplicity Regent 18 horsepower 38-inch mower. Had it since 2008. It's been pretty good. Last season I replaced the drive belt because it was slipping off the transmission pulley, and this season I noticed it doing it again. So I replaced the pulleys that go between the drive pulley and the pulley on the transmission. There was a little wear on the idler pulley, not too much, but that didn't help the problem. The belt was still slipping off the transmission pulley. I also replaced the tensioner spring that goes to the bracket on the idler pulley. There was a little bit of difference. There was a little bit of more tension on the belt after I replaced that spring, but it wasn't enough to keep the belt onto the pulley on the transmission. So I also checked some more obvious things. Was there any debris build-up underneath the idler bracket, or any build-up underneath the control for the brake? Anything that would affect tension on the belt. So I took out the transmission, but before I did that I noticed there was some play on the pulley on the transmission. To remove the transmission, I jacked up the tractor, put axle stands under it, and then you need to disconnect the belt. So put the brake on and that released tension, and the belt should slide off the transmission pulley. You'll need to disconnect rods for the brake. Need to disconnect the connection quick release pin for the forward and reverse arm, and also the one for the bypass rod, which allows you to move the tractor. So I left it in the bypass mode to make sure the wheels were moving freely. Disconnect 4 bolts, 2 here, 2 here, and also 1 bolt on this bracket. And then the transmission should just roll out. There's a snap ring on top of this pulley. That was a little tricky to get off. My cheaper pliers were too big for the little hole, 1/16 of an inch hole, whatever that is. So I bought some more $13 pliers with smaller prongs in there to get into that snap ring holes, those snap ring holes. But I did notice in removing it, it stretched it a little bit, so I've ordered a new snap ring. So once the snap ring's off, it's fairly easy to remove the pulley. There's a wave washer under here that I've ordered in case that's lost its springiness. And also I've ordered a new fan, because this seems to be worn a little bit and maybe damaged with the belt keep hitting it. There seems to be no wear on the stem here, so I think the wear is on the pulley itself. This is hardened steel, so it shouldn't wear. So I'm suspecting that's the problem. On this particular model, this is a Tuff Torq transmission. There's no belt guard on this one. Other models do have a belt guard. On this one, the fan goes below the pulley, so you can't have a belt guard from the transmission to the pulley like you can on some models where the fan is above. So it's possible that may exacerbate the problem when there is some movement in the pulley. So I've ordered new parts and see what happens when they come. There's a label here that tells you the part number for your particular model. So I'll put that in Tuff Torq's website and all of the parts I need. So I'll put those on and see what happens. So my new pulley arrived, and compared to the old one, I do see some wear in the old one. And I also measured the depth on both of these. So with a tire depth gauge, with the old one, I notice just over 19 millimeters. And with the new one, I'll put that in there, it's just less than 19 millimeters. So there is some wear on the old pulley. So I have the new fan and the pulley back on the transmission now. It seems a lot better. There's a tiny bit of motion or movement, but nothing as much as when the old one was on there. The fan is much more solid than the pulley. Well, I got the transmission back on the tractor. It was a little fiddly trying to get everything to line up. It probably would have been easier with a hydraulic jack. I just had a regular car jack, but it's kind of light enough to lift up the back end and then have someone help line up the transmission with the bolts. The transmission has a tendency to sort of flop forward because it's kind of top heavy. So it does help with two people, or if you have the right equipment, makes it even easier. But it's in there now. While it was out, I gave it a good clean, remove all the dirt from the cooling fins. I could have done an oil change on it while it was out, but my priority at this point was to get the fan and the pulley on, and that's done. Just got to give it a test. It seems to be working fine now. The belt is not slipping off the transmission pulley anymore, and the tractor's moving backwards and forwards fine. I've taken it for a spin round and it seems good. Just check all the tightness of the bolts and everything, and it should be good. So if you're going to try this, first inspect the condition of the belt and make sure you use an OEM belt. Some cheaper belts may have a tendency to slip off. And check all the pulleys, check for debris, and if that looks all good, then check the condition of the rear transmission pulley, and you may have to replace that. But it wasn't too bad, had a little bit of work, needed some help guiding it back in, but not too bad at all. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will try and answer them. I am by no means an expert on tractors or mechanical things in general, but I will try and help. If you do try this, obviously please be safe. Use axle stands or blocks. Don't rely on just a jack if you're going to get underneath the tractor. If you found this useful, please give me a like, and thank you very much for watching.